In 1916, Ireland was proclaimed a sovereign country, separate from the British Empire after years of suffrage and oppression. The proclamation declared the right of the Irish people, the ownership of Ireland, and the unfettered control of the Irish destinies are to be sovereign and indefeasible. For years prior, Ireland has been under British rule, and its relationship with Britain marked by continual tension. However, the reasons behind this constant quarrel came from different belief systems of the countries. The Irish conflict with England, though rooted in political domination, evolved into a deeply sectarian struggle as Protestant-Catholic divisions became central to identity, governance, and violence. The history of Ireland reveals how British rule impacted the religious identity, transforming it into political division. This violence continued for many years until peace was gained through compromise from both religions. Throughout its history, Ireland grew to be a Catholic-dominant nation after St. Patrick's movement in the 5th century. Even in 1534, when King Henry VIII founded the Anglican Church, the Irish remained predominantly Catholic. Because of this, Protestants looked down on them and treated them poorly. In the 1800s, the British Kingdom's prominent religion was Protestant. The Parliament at this time was giving land freely to the Protestant Scots, taking the land away from the Irish Catholics. The issue ended up beginning the Great Hunger of Ireland, also known as the Potato Famine, killing 1 million people and sending 2 million away from their homes. The blight continued for a decade from 1845 to 1855, building the resentment between Catholics and Protestants. The famine provided the Catholic people with more reason to rebel against the Protestants due to their tendency of putting political rule above the needs of the people. This led to the formation of the Irish Republican Brotherhood in 1858, which was founded as a resistance against the Protestant rule. In the mid-1800s, the Brotherhood acted as an early form of the Irish Republican Army. Two leaders of the IRB, Jeremiah O'Donovan Rossa and John Devoy, were arrested for committing treason against Britain by involving themselves in a battle called the Fenian Uprising, and they were exiled to America after release. In the 1890s, Ireland was confident in making a stand against discrimination and British rule. In 1907, a man by the name Tom Clark, who was involved with the Brotherhood, formed a rebellion. At this time, the Irish parliamentary, led by John Redmond, began to fight for Home Rule. In 1912, 500,000 Unionists agreed to sign the Home Rule Bill, which suggested the idea of self-government for the Catholic Party. A militia known as the Volunteers was formed. Tom Clark was a part of the Volunteers. Protestants at this time felt threatened by a bill, so a man named Edward Carson presented the Ulster Covenant against the Republican idealists. In 1914, the bill was postponed because of the outbreak of World War I. During the war, John Redmond called the Volunteers to aid England in the war. He believed that if the Irish helped in the war, then the idea of home rule would more likely pass. After this happened, the Volunteers split, leaving men to stay and expand the Brotherhood. After the war, the Catholic Party decided that Redmond's proposal for home rule was not enough for Ireland, and independence was the new agenda. After the war, a man named John Connolly formed an organization with Jim Larkin called the Irish Citizen Army, after police attacked a workforce going on an industrial strike. Tom Clark and his political ally, Patrick Pearse, heard about the ICA and confronted Connolly to grow their brotherhood and to follow the idea of Irish independence or religious freedom. So the Brotherhood proposed Easter Sunday, 1916, to be the date where the rebels would seize buildings in Dublin. To begin their fight for freedom, 5,000 citizens and volunteers marched through Dublin until Good Friday on St. Patrick's Day in 1916. The British began to suspect a rebellion after weapons were found smuggled into Ireland. Many of the rebels stopped marching on Easter Sunday. However, the next day, Dublin's General Post Office was stormed by rebels. The citizens of Dublin gathered at the post office to hear Patrick Pearse read the people of Ireland, the Irish Proclamation, on April 24th, which was signed by 7 men, including Thomas Clark and Patrick Pearse. The conflict of Easter Rising lasted 6 days until England seized Irish militia. Although the rebellion was ended by the British, it was a step towards Ireland's independence. It wasn't until 1919 that Sinn Féin, the country's nationalist party, declared Ireland a republic. In 1922, the Anglo-Irish Treaty officially dubbed Ireland a free state. The 26 counties below Ulster were formed as a Republic of Ireland, which was predominantly Catholic, while the remaining 6 counties became Northern Ireland, where the Protestants lived. Although Ireland gained partial independence in 1922, there still remained religious and political discrimination, resulting in a border that was built to ensure division between Northern Ireland and the Republic. The island of Ireland was now growing tension between its borders because of the difference in religion. For years, the countries were quiet until the late 1960s. 1969, at the Apprentice Boys of Derry March in Northern Ireland, Protestants passed Catholic residencies and resulted in violent actions when the Protestants began vandalizing the homes of the Catholics. Houses throughout Northern Ireland were burned and weapons were fired at both Protestants and Catholics. Thus, the Irish troubles began. Sinn Féin's government split the Irish army where a group called the Provisional IRA fought for the Republic. Another march led by a socialist named Eamon McCain resulted in a Protestant ambush against the Catholic protesters. This event inspired many people, such as the Price sisters, to join the IRA and fight using violence. However, the fighting was not over yet. The year of 1972 marked the highest rate of violence in the Troubles. Although there were bombings and massacres on the streets, the IRA also used pacifists to speak against the Protestants. A man named Gerry Adams fought with the IRA by resisting verbally against the British government. The Provisional IRA during these years were ordered to kill what they would call traitors who helped Protestants and loyalists to the crown. The McConvilles in particular was a family that consisted of 14 children and 10 living with their mother Jean. In December 1972, Jean was abducted by the IRA as they stormed into her apartment. It was heard that Jean had hid an injured British soldier from the Provost. Her body was found in 2003. The McConvilles were one of many families who were influenced by the political powers of religious indifference. The Mountbattens were another family affected by the division. In 1979, Louis Mountbatten, Queen Elizabeth's cousin, brought his family on their boat known as the Shadow Five. While they were out on the water, the boat blew to pieces, killing Mountbatten and 3 others aboard. The IRA planted a bomb on the boat and assassinated Mountbatten. The Republicans celebrated this event. The Loyalists became terrified and requested for Margaret Thatcher to arrive in Northern Ireland to resolve the issue. Margaret stayed at the Grand Hotel in a town known as Brighton. On October 12th, an explosion was set off that blew the building to pieces. Margaret was staying there because of a conservative conference and was in the building when the explosion occurred. The explosion was both an assassination attempt on Thatcher and her husband, but it was also an attack on the Loyalists because of the conservative conference. One of the mid-events in the Troubles was the Enniskillen bombing. In 1987, many citizens in Enniskillen, Ireland, went to a memorial to remember the fallen British military. During the memorial, the IRA set off a bomb that killed 11 people and 63 others were wounded, with one man dying 13 years later. It seemed as if the Troubles were never going to end, until 1998, when Sinn Féin began to negotiate peaceful terms to end years of oppression after former President Clinton called Gerry Adams about the issue.
The principle of consent is absolute and is throughout the agreement. And the breakthrough is that is now accepted by all, North and South. Also, those who believe in a united Ireland can make that case now by persuasion, not violence or threats.
But I look forward equally to a new era of friendship and reconciliation between Unionists and Nationalists, in which each tradition can learn truly the value of the other.
The agreement was publicly voted to pass and was signed by Tony Blair, the Prime Minister of England, and Taoiseach Bertie Ahern, the Prime Minister of Ireland. For years, the island of Ireland struggled with uniting their beliefs, resulting in a division between the North and the Republican counties. The fight for religious identity resulted in violence for political power. The unresolved division of religion, dating back to 1534, transformed worship into war.
After decades of conflict, people have got used to peace. So the images which you may have or which I may have of border checkpoints and of heavy patrols and
they belong to
all
history.
That all belongs to history. And nobody wants that back.
2 nations were born out of the Anglo-Irish Treaty. What was supposed to be the end of Catholic suffrage turned to a war between 2 religions, formed to praise the same God who has commanded unity among men.